Larry, David Ellis, and myself are going to visit Chung. And as you can see in the map, we're going to go from downtown Da Nang way out into the country. I don't know how many clicks out it is. But here we are in the cab, and it's all very nice, and it's urban, and it's paved, and it's boulevards, and you can see the traffic going. And we slowly work our way down the highway, and we happen upon this convoy of the Vietnamese army, all decked out in their camouflage uniforms, quite professional looking. I kept trying to figure out if you volunteered or were you drafted, and it turns out you're drafted for 24 months. And you serve up until I think you're 24 years of age, you can be drafted. But as you can see, they're quite modern. In Southeast Asia, they're one of the better armies, and so it was kind of interesting. But now, boy, we're on that's Ms. Nung. She works for the Vietnamese government. She's sort of like a social worker, and Chung is one of her charges. And she's going to take us up these bumpy roads, hither and yon, and to Chung's house. And as you can see, right here is like a little green belt. But she takes off down the road, and every now and then she has to stop and wait for us to catch up.
Found it without her. How did we get this finder? How did you find the finder?
Chị này là bên cán bộ của xã nè, Như.
Now, these are quite large houses, and as you can see, they're gated, and they're quite nice and so forth. But as we move further back down these trails, I guess they're more like trails than roads, and we're bouncing around, and then we lose her, and then all of a sudden,
Now this is tight.
that's where she is, and we stop. And now we kind of group outside the cab.
Nhà đó luôn đây chị. Nhà đây luôn hả?
There she is. That's David. There's our translator, Chi. I don't know what the fellow's name is from. The guy in the blue shirt is from the Children of Vietnam. Mr. Ellis is straight up the road. Now we're going to run into the dogs, and this is, as you notice, you can see now that these houses are much smaller. They're cheek by jowl when you see the next couple of shots. The dogs are very important because they hunt vermin. They do rats, they do a bunch of other things, and so they're very important. Now, I didn't get a good long shot on the camera of the house, but you can see how close the house next door is. So these are a couple of pictures from Larry and from David, and there's a grandfather, and there's a woman next door with her baby. And now we're going to go in and meet Chung and his family. But as they say, leave sleeping dogs lie. And Larry's sitting down at the table and see this picture of Chung before he contracted his illness. So we seat ourselves at the table. You can see some of the families there in the background. David spent a lot of time trying to find those exercise balls. You can see Chung sitting on the bed with his father, who spends full time with him.
So here's Chung, and they are his parents, Miss Fun and Miss Hong. So she is the representative of the local here. So yeah, Miss Nu. Yeah.
Miss Nung?
Yeah, Nu. So she showed the way to come here.
David, Larry.
Yeah.
And after we meet Miss Chung, we see the rest of the family, and Chung has spinal meningitis, which he contracted from a virus between the 5th and the 6th grades. He's now greeting everybody. The translator is there. And now he's coming over to get the balls. Yes, that's a good idea. He's struggling there with the knot that David has tied. But Chung is now much larger than his picture. He's pretty much in that position. The rag is for his drool. He can hear well. He can't speak. He needs some help with everything, including going to the bathroom. So it's a 24/7 deal.
Good.
Now the translator is explaining to the mother who's standing there about how to use the exercise balls. One of the attractions in the visits was the ability to photograph the family. This was, after all, a photography workshop. Here you can see David Ellis directing some shots of Chung, his father, and his mother. And I tried to get some of the viewfinder stuff so you could watch it. There's another set of sequences here where I do a reverse angle and you can see the family in the background. Now here are some of the shots that Larry took, and I have a shot or two that David took, and it's Chung showing how he uses his exercise equipment at home. However, most of the time he's going to be at the hospital Monday through Friday with his father. But you can get a nice feel for the difference between video and photography. And now we get ready for another encounter. So I was still shooting,
Yes.
and all of a sudden, Chung
watching
starts
Larry
to laugh
fix his
at
lens.
Larry.
He's laughing at you.
And
He's laughing at
David
you
Ellis, of
and
course,
your
does a
lenses.
classic put down,
Yes, of course.
and Larry retorts. But one of the things that got started was I don't think he's ever seen himself. And David is just flicking through those things you saw him taking the pictures before. And Chung is reacting, and he's having a fairly decent time. And we did, between the photographic sessions, I guess that's what they're called, we would show him pictures of himself. And here is some stuff that Larry took. And we eventually, here's David again, but we showed him video. And he came and he watched himself. And it's kind of probably very interesting to see yourself for the first time, after 3 or 4 or 5 years. And that's all over with, and all of a sudden he starts walking toward me, and I am like flabbergasted. And they're telling him to put one foot in front of the other, and he's doing a great job, but that he's going to land on my lap has to come to me as the biggest surprise I've ever. And so you can see I'm just kind of flabbergasted. And so David Ellis and Larry took a couple pictures, and I appreciated it. It was quite an experience, and it's all quite moving, given his illness and so forth. So, a nice encounter with Chung.